I'm Zachariah Bogart, and welcome to Let's Talk Sedalia, a 1-hour program dedicated to bringing you news about Smith Cotton and key issues shaping Sedalia, Missouri. Each week, we welcome new guests to discuss topics that matter to our community. Let's Talk Sedalia is hosted by Ron Tollner, John Meehan, and myself. Now, let's turn it over to Ron Tollner and John Meehan as I bring you this week's guest program.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. As usual, we are coming to you from the studios at Smith Cotton High School. I am Ron Tollner, one of the co-hosts of this program. John Meehan is not with us today. We're going to forge on without him. And our third amigo is our production engineer, Mr. Zach Bogart, and he is behind the magic curtain here. And will only pop out if we have trouble. With me today, which, by the way, I think is a tremendously interesting story, and it's you're going to learn a lot about Sedalia for really many of the last few years, kind of a modern-day history, you might say. And with me to talk about that today is Ms. Dianne Simon. Welcome.
Hello.
And we're gonna just kind of bounce around a little bit here, and hopefully enlighten a lot of you on the city of Sedalia. Before we jump into that, Dianne, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little summary about yourself, education, community involvement, employment history, what you're doing now.
Okay. I grew up and attended school in Cole Camp, and I'm the second oldest of 9 children, and that'll give you an upbringing, I'm telling you, and a good background on jumping in there and doing things that have to be done. That's how I grew up. So I attended Cole Camp School and then State Fair Community College for a little bit. And then I finished up my degree through Central Methodist. So I've got my bachelor's only. But started working for, I worked for the Extension Office, University Extension Office for a few years. So Bob Heitmeyer and Beverly Pfeiffer and Lloyd Llewellyn and Owen Fox, they were my first bosses.
I knew all of those people.
Yes.
Super people.
Yes, they were.
And when you say the Extension, you mean University of Missouri.
University of Missouri Extension, yes. Yeah, their little office here in town. And so that was my first job. And then found out about the position. I started working in Adam Fisher's law office 42 years ago in March. So, yeah, 42 years ago. Yeah, and, working in his law office gave me a really good education. One, because Adam liked to teach. In fact, he did teach at University, what's it called now? UCM.
I did not know that.
Yes, he did. Yeah. So he taught some there, and he had that innate ability to teach. And I was willing to learn. And so I learned a lot working for him through the years. And then kind of, so with the law office, he and Jim Mathewson bought KDRO Radio. And I ended up working over there for a little while, managing those stations for a little bit after I had done some background financial work. And
so you were not an on-air personality?
No. No, I've jumped into it today. We'll find out how good I could sound over the air. Probably not very good. I might have the face for radio, though, too, Yeah.
That'd be great.
And so managed the radio stations for a little bit. And then when they sold the radio stations, they got out of radio right when radio and advertising was getting a little more difficult. People were going more to the internet. And so they got out of it at the right time. And before they would have to spend a lot of money on a radio station and make it more digital even, all of that timing was why they wanted to get out of there. But then they asked me to come back to the Thompson Hills office. And so Adam Fisher, Jim Mathewson, and Bill Shoemake were the board members and came back and have been doing property management for them.
And when you say they were the board members
for Thompson Hills and the Thompson corporations. So yeah.
And Thompson Hills and the Thompson Corporation, where did they get their name from?
Yeah. E.W. Thompson. E.W. Thompson came to Sedalia, Missouri from Marceline. He went to school. He had a 4th grade education. Went to school in Marceline and then ended up in Sedalia. I'm not sure exactly when, what year or anything.
Wonder if he ever knew Walt Disney.
Very possibly.
Yeah.
Very possibly. They would probably be about the same age.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah. E.W. died in 78. I can't remember how old he was when he passed away, but
So when he came down here, well, let's don't forget his wife.
yes, and E.W. and Sylvia Thompson, and when E.W. first came to town, he was a businessman. Actually, he had a tractor business. He sold tractors out of Lamont to begin with. And I just found this out, the background on this. He and in those days, a tractor came as a kit. He put it together, and what I heard is he would drive it down the gravel road to a farmer, and if that farmer didn't buy it, he'd go on down the road to another farmer until he sold it. That's how he got started in business.
That is tremendous.
In the area.
And obviously, I mean, I never had the pleasure of knowing the man, but obviously he was very confident, quite an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur and businessman, and knew he needed to make money and wanted to, and got out there and did it. So that was the first business he got in, was selling tractors. He ended up, though, I don't know if you remember, there was used to be Thompson Motors. He sold cars. So he had the Chevrolet dealership first before Mike O'Connor.
Okay.
He had the Chevrolet dealership, and then he ended up with Thompson Motors on, we're over by the Elks Club, at the old Montgomery Ward building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Thompson Motors. It still says E.W. Thompson, I believe, on it. Then he ended up in business with Bill Greer Motors. That was Thompson Greer Motors to begin with.
And that was probably still right out there, close to the intersection of 50 and 65, northeast corner.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. Yeah. So sold cars, sold to Edsel. He had an Edsel dealership in Sedalia for a while. Chevrolet, Ford. I mean, he's done a lot of them.
I'm sure there's a lot of you listeners that have never seen an Edsel. They were really interesting vehicles. I know the neighbor of one of my grandmothers had one, and they were
probably bought it from Mr. Thompson.
Probably did, and it was a pretty ritzy car in its day.
That's right. Yeah. But he was in the car dealerships, and he ended up in the banking business. He helped start Missouri State Bank, which is now, I'm not sure which one of them it's called, but
it's changed a lot over the years.
Yes, yeah. But Mr. Thompson had a vision, and he did everything to make it come true. You know, if he saw a need, or if he saw a way he could make a dollar, let's be real. I mean, he came through the Depression here in Sedalia, and he made it. You know, he did what he could to make a dollar and keep moving forward. But he also, during that time, got into the cattle business, and that was when he was in the car dealership. From what I understand, he learned about grain and cattle because people didn't always have the cash to buy a car. But they could trade.
Sure.
He would take a trade. He'd take a cow or two, or grain or whatever it took to make the deal. He would do it. So he got into the business. He ended up buying some farms, I think, that went through the Depression, and got sold on the courthouse steps, and ended up at the west edge of Sedalia. There was at least, from what I can tell, is there was at least about 800 acres farmland there. And then he also had a farm out down B Highway. And so he became...
Which is what we also know as Green Ridge Road.
Yeah. He became a pretty big farmer, cattle farmer. He had cattle but all along, he had a vision for Sedalia. He wanted to grow it. And so as he was buying land, and he was using it as farmland, it eventually has gotten developed. And so that...
Before we jump into that, the details, which I definitely want to hear, I want to step back to the history part of it a little bit. And I think you said that he passed away in about 78.
78.
Okay, so you actually never knew.
I never knew
the man
him
either.
No.
And then I know we're going to have to talk about his wife Sylvia in this process too, and she passed
In 84, December of 84.
so that would have been right after I got here. Okay.
I had met her a few times, but yeah, she was up there in age, and they had gotten to the point where they had developed what they were going to, commercial wise. But we can get into more because there's a little more I want to talk about with Sylvia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But so back to the point where, well, let's say when he passed away in 78. I mean, I know, he left a lot of assets, a lot of real estate to be handled once he was gone. And was it all to benefit his wife until she passed, or were other things already happening with it?
Well, there were, and when he passed, yes, it was for her, and they have a daughter, and there were other family members that were beneficiaries also. But they had a vision for the future, and when he passed, it's kind of funny, the story about him too. He believed in working the dollar all the time. And when he passed, his accounts were overdrawn. They had to run to the bank real quick and cover the accounts because he had his dollars working all the time. So he kept his accounts. There was nothing sitting. I just think that's kind of funny.
Yeah,
you can't do that in today's world.
No, but I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. A lot of people back then who, like you said, went through the Depression, grew up in the Depression, they have a whole different outlook on the history of their lives. And, a lot of those folks became very frugal.
Yes.
And very wise with the utilization of their assets for a very good reason.
Yes. Yes. They saw it
the worst
disappear.
of things.
That's right. They saw it disappear. He saw the banks lock up the doors and not let you have the cash for a while.
Yeah.
That would have happened in the Depression. And I think that was partly why he got into the banking business. When he couldn't walk in and get his own money, he decided to do something about it. They got some people together and said, let's get this going. So
at his passing, there were a lot of assets, obviously, and I'm going to use the word left in trust, and I'm just guessing at that. But that's kind of when the other members of Sedalia came in for management purposes.
Well, they were working with him all leading up into that, and he had a board. He had people he trusted to help him, and keep his businesses going. And he always had the ideal too that if you were the owner of your business, you better be writing the checks so you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So and that's important. And I think that's one thing that some struggling businesses don't realize. They turn things over to a manager and expect everything to happen. But if you're a business owner, you better be seeing the everyday business and what's happening and the checkbook every day. That was one thing he believed in, is what I hear.
So I'll quit interrupting you here.
That's okay.
So jump back into kind of what ends up being the legacy of Mr. Thompson.
Yeah. Before he died, he had already built a lot. There's the Thompson Hills addition right off of Thompson Boulevard to the east. That was all platted residential. Okay. There was the Thompson Hills Shopping Center. That was built in 1964. There was the Ramada Inn. He owned that. And trying to think of some other, he had several other buildings. At that time, there was the Social Security office was over there on Thompson Boulevard. And I think he had that built. Anyway, there were a lot of commercial operations, commercial buildings that he had built through the years. Well, actually, Biederman's Furniture used to be first it was Biederman's Furniture, then it was the Red Apple. And today's world, people will remember it as Furniture Factory Outlet and then American Freight. Okay, so that was built even before the shopping center. But he saw Sedalia growing, And so, just like the shopping center, I mean, he brought that, he visioned to town. He wanted a shopping center, the shopping area to be at the west edge of town. He built the shopping center, and it was smaller then than what it is now. It's been added on to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 times.
Okay.
At least 4 times. His office used to be, the Thompson office used to be where the Edward Jones office is right now. And if you can imagine what it used to be.
Back in the back.
Back in the day, that Edward Jones office was actually a car wash to begin with. It was a little car wash. And then when the car wash went out of business, he put his little office in there. And then we've been over the years renovated and made it look a little better. It looks pretty cute now as the Edward Jones office. Yeah. So, but he just worked to bring commercial business to town and grow Sedalia. That was kind of what he wanted to do right there at the west edge of town. And so if you think about how far, I know that the Thompson Hills addition was part of the original Thompson farm. The land where Town and Country Motors, it's Toyota, McCarthy Toyota.
Now, right?
I think it went all the way to Main Street, okay, and then all the way to 16th Street, and then out to the Thompson Industrial Park at the west edge of town.
Goodness.
Yeah. I know that was all Thompson land.
So his land really butted up to what was probably the western boundary of the city.
It was, yes. It was the western boundary. It still is the western boundary. And as we develop it, as it's been developed through the years, it gets annexed in. And that's how it's been from the beginning. As a piece is developed and is contiguous to the city limits, it gets annexed in, and we've continued to do that. The board members have continued to try and grow the west edge of Sedalia and bring more to Sedalia. But let's go back a little bit. Okay, so he died in 1978. Sylvia G. Thompson died in 1984. Before she passed, she ended up in a nursing home, and she didn't like her experience very well. And she told her board members, she said, we've got to do something for Sedalia. And I want to see a nice nursing home built that provides a home for people in their last years that is comfortable, that is beautiful, and that gives them a place to stay if they can't afford it at home, if they can't, and just to have a nice place to die. And so that's what the board then went to work and created the Sylvia G. Thompson Residence Center, the nursing home.
Which for years, again, I came here in 1983, and I mean, it just seems like since whenever I came around, that was kind of known as one of the premier housing areas for the elderly. I mean, it was very, like you said, she wanted it to be nice.
Yes.
Well, it was very well done, very well ran.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's her legacy. EW's legacy, is probably building the west edge of Sedalia, but her legacy is that nursing home. And she never got to see it, of course, but she would be very proud of it. It's been added on several times because it started out small, and now it's a 120 bed facility. And then, of course, we've added another nursing home, E.W. Thompson Health and Rehab. So the first one was named after her, and the second one was named after E.W. So both of their names can live on there. But
now the latter one is the one that's further west and
E.W. Thompson
has memory care in
both of them have memory care. Both of them have memory care. The one, E.W. Thompson Health and Rehab on Mitchell, has Medicare care. It's Medicare certified for rehab care. The other one, Sylvia Thompson, does not. We've just done, it's Medicaid certified. It's Medicaid and private pay. But,
if you think about it, if it hadn't been for E.W. and Sylvia, Sedalia could be very much different today.
It could.
Than it is, because they contributed both through their running their own businesses, starting them, that entrepreneurial type thing, and then, from there, which they were very successful at, as well as the agriculture. But then, beyond that, you go when they were gone, what they left for the continuing development of the city. Yes, we've always kind of been known as development has been more on the west side, and they're probably the reason for that.
EW started it. He had a vision for Sedalia's growth, and he started it, and the board has continued it. And we've all thought that anything you can do to grow Sedalia and bring growth and employment is important. And if you do that, you bring the people. But EW with the shopping center, with the other commercial buildings, with bringing Walmart to town, he's the one that he reached out to Sam Walton, brought him to town, and
now that's something in its own right.
Yes, yeah, yes, going directly to him, and
Sam Walton would have probably appreciated EW.
Yes,
they would have been kindred spirits.
Exactly. I was going to say birds of a feather. Yeah, exactly. That's what they would have been. Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. But he had the shopping center, and even though Walmart, people say Walmart is a small business killer, but they also can be another reason people come to town. Certainly. If you don't have more than one option, then you might look elsewhere to shop, and that's kind of what his thought was. So. But, then over the years, the shopping center has grown and continues to be a healthy enterprise, even in today's world where there's been COVID and all kinds of things to work through. It still continues to be a thriving location.
And, again, talking about the shopping center, I mean, obviously there are businesses that were there that are not there any longer. But you guys do a pretty good job of keeping that thing
We try hard. We try hard. We try hard. Takes a little work. It takes a lot of. We take care of our tenants first. Okay, we do the best to take care of our tenants. And with COVID, that was a difficult time. Your national chains will tell you what they're going to do. And they told us we're going to close our doors for however time. And you're not going to charge us rent, or you're going to charge us this. You have to take what they say because you're kind of stuck. And so we worked with our local tenants and gave them breaks too. You do as much as you can to help your local person because you want to see them succeed.
Sure.
You want to see them stay. It's important to try and help your local person as well as the big merchants, the big chains.
So I'm trying to visualize this a little better. When you were talking about the boundaries earlier, and we might repeat that because it basically their properties went as far south as 16th Street,
right,
as far north as Main Street, as far east, as Thompson Boulevard, but beyond because they did that development as well. What is that? It's Royal Street and.
Yeah, it may actually have gone as far as closer to Ruth Ann. I don't know exactly, somewhere in there.
Right.
Yes.
And
then west.
West to how far?
Well, it includes the Thompson Industrial Park. So that'd be west of Colton's and Hobby Lobby. The industrial park is that direction.
And you're talking about the industrial park on the south side of the highway.
Right.
Where nowadays, just examples of what we're talking about, what's in there.
Scribbling, packaging, the impact signs. That's the one that everybody's going to know, see right there at the very front. The Harris Development Center and the Ditsfield.
I was going to say, it went as far south as Ditsfield.
Ditsfield Warehouse.
Yeah, there are a lot of, in fact, I don't know if there's really even any vacant land in that.
Yes, there is.
Well,
You don't realize how far that goes. Yeah, it goes a little bit further west. The Amazon distribution center is being built out there.
That was my next question. Was that on the old EW land?
Yes, and that's in the industrial park too. Yeah. And there's more land out there because they're getting ready to open up another road and actually be able to show what's left there that they can develop yet with industrial
now, let's
employers.
Talk a little bit about what your all's involvement was in the development of that stuff. Because, and of course, we're talking about after EW is gone now.
Yes.
You individuals who have the responsibility for taking care of what's left and developing it.
Continuing the legacy,
There
basically.
you go. No,
Yes.
it's a good way
Yep.
to put it. So, any interesting stories? I'm hitting you kind of with a blank one here. As
Well,
far
let's-
as when it came to selling that property, developing the property.
George Wimmer was the head of the Industrial Development
George.
Corporation at the time. Yes, and he came to the board and asked, hey, we need some land for industrial park. We need to bring some more industry to town. And we worked with them, and actually we ended up offering the land for sale at the fair market value, but for half price. And so the whole industrial park, and I should have looked up, I don't know how many acres total it was sold at half the price.
But regardless of the acres, I mean, again, that is a phenomenal thing that the board for Thompson's did for this community.
Well, again, to grow the community, you've got to bring employers. You bring employers, you're going to bring people, okay? And that's going to grow your community. Now, everybody says, well, the population in Sedalia hasn't increased.
It depends on how you measure it.
Right, and it has not increased a lot, but there's a lot of housing just right outside the Sedalia city limits.
Sure. City limit, I mean, Sedalia in a lot of ways is landlocked.
Yeah.
But-
Unless all those people want to come inside the city limits, and
Get
that's what it
annexed.
takes. It
Right.
takes a lot to be annexed in when it's already been developed like that. Yes.
Right.
But yeah, that's to bring industry to town, then you're going to bring more people. And what does that mean? Then there are more shoppers, more people to spend money at the shopping center, more people to use everybody in town, utilize the businesses in town. So, which is important. It's important for the businesses to continue to be able to do business.
So, roughly, how much property is still available for sale, for development, whatever?
So of that original approximately 800, I was guesstimating about 800 acres there at the west edge of town. Might have been a little bit more than that but what we still own and have available for development is about, I'm going to say about 60 acres maybe.
Which is really quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you drive down Winchester, 10th and Mitchell, which comes out then out by Tractor Supply.
Right.
Yeah. And Lowe's. That is all undeveloped Thompson land. Yeah. That we.
So really, it's from a standpoint of how Sedalia's growing, that's a pretty good area for that land to be yet
Yes.
available
Yes.
because that is a hopping area.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And, we don't, you read a lot on the internet. People make comments on the internet, and they probably need to think twice before they do so. But
Well, and of course, half those people always say they should do something.
Right.
They should.
That's
of course,
right.
they never define who
they
is.
are, yeah. But if you have a piece of land and somebody comes to you and wants to buy it, for example, okay, let's specifically, because I know there were comments about the Valvoline station. And that was a piece of Thompson land that we sold to the Valvoline developer. And the first thing people say, just what we needed, another oil change. Well, that company came to us and they wanted to buy in Sedalia. And we worked with them on the price and felt comfortable with what we sold it for. We don't try to restrict other than... we wouldn't want to bring trying to think a gentleman's club into Sedalia.
There may have been some of those years ago. But
Yeah.
they weren't good.
I'm sure there were several of them years ago. You kind of watch that, but otherwise, if there's a company that comes to you and wants to buy, you work with them, and if it works for you, you make it work. If it works for them, you make it work. Sure. We're not going to say, well, we don't need you, because there's already an oil change place here.
Right.
That's not the way you do things. Now, I'll jump back though, because in the shopping center, we do kind of work that way, because we have a lot of tenants that have certain restrictions that in order to help them, we will not lease to a liquor store, a vape store, a smoke shop, tattoo parlor, because we have restrictions, exclusives, different things in our leases that require that. So you're careful to try and make it work in the shopping center, because they are all adjoining tenants and adjoining neighbors right there, and make it work and be complementary for your current tenant mix. And so it's important to always keep that space full and bring someone in that's going to bring foot traffic.
Sure. Makes all the sense in the world. Now, you mentioned Valvoline, and heaven help me, the name is escaping me, but the new place that's going in right beside
Chipotle.
Mm-hmm. Was that at Thompson Hills?
That was a part of their development. We sold the whole lot to the Valvoline developer, and then he developed it into the Valvoline and to
okay, but it came
Chipotle.
from you.
Yes.
But it came from you.
Yeah. Yes.
And then on the north side of 50 Highway, so you said it went to Maine before, so are we just getting beyond the Thompson property when we start talking about Menard's Steak and Shake?
Yes. Yes.
So
yeah.
that
was not.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. No. It on the north side. Let's see. We still own the lot next to WK that was American Freight Furniture Factory Outlet Building. We still own that one. I think that's the only one on the north side that we still own. We still own a couple of buildings on Thompson Boulevard and lease them out. Mm-hmm. And our objective is still to keep the buildings that we have leased and with businesses that help contribute to the city of Sedalia, to business and bring retail in and bring sales tax in.
And I know you mentioned these names quickly earlier in the podcast, but the individuals, the board that was left to take care of the Thompson legacies, I really want to throw those names out there again, because they have done so much for our community and have been great city fathers, you might say. And of course, we're talking about Adam Fisher, we're talking about Senator Jim Matheson. And also Bill Shoemate,
yes,
which are on the board, and there's somebody else on that board, right?
Yes, I'm on the board now.
You're on the board as well. That's right.
Yeah.
So
Jim's gone, and they asked me. I was elected onto the board, and am contributing. I'm still doing all the property management right now too. So,
well, I know
it's been fun
for anybody like myself who's had the pleasure and the privilege of knowing all of those individuals. I have a lot of respect for them.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because Sedalia and the good of Sedalia was foremost on their mind, and still is.
And still is. Yes. Yes. Through the years, I mean, the Thompson entities have contributed a lot to local businesses and local organizations, such as the Sedalia School District.
Good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
We've
elaborate on that one a little bit.
Yeah, we've contributed quite a bit to the Sedalia School District and helped with with this new building. Which
is 16 years old, by the way.
Which is crazy to think. I just called it new, and it's 16 years old. Okay, yeah, yes, how time flies. State Fair Community College. We've contributed. State Fair Community College was a big project. It was in helping to expand the nursing program. It was important to the nursing homes to be able to have the nurses homegrown and go to school here and be able to come to work for us. And so that's important. I mean, we've had lots of big things. Boys and Girls Club in the past, CASA. I mean, we've contributed to quite a few.
I'll bet there'll be more.
Washington School.
Sure.
Every month we write a $500 check to Washington School just as a supplement for them to be able to use to help kids with whatever is needed. You know, and that came about because one of the board members' wives was a teacher there, and Washington School was in the area that needed the help.
Right.
And it's a program we've continued to do. It was important to the board. It's important to give back to the community. You know, they've grown the businesses and they've grown the nursing homes and want to see Sedalia to continue to grow. but they also give right back into the community as much as they can.
And again, you have done that for many years in many ways.
And I just a quick look, and I know it's over $2.5 million in the last few years that's been given away.
Yeah.
Which seems kind of phenomenal.
It is phenomenal.
It is. And then, the nursing homes themselves, they work on a not-for-profit basis. That, it's not to make money. It's all the money that is made is put right back in.
Right.
We do our best to try and pay well and give benefits to our employees and keep the buildings looking nice and looking good and giving the best care we possibly can for Sedalia residents.
Tremendous. I'm going to change this up a little bit. What I'd like you to do is if you could explain to our listeners, because, your position is very unique. Well, you're a unique individual in what you do. But what's a typical day in the life of Dianne Simon? And then to add on to that, kind of give us at least a shortened version of the A to Z process of getting somebody in here.
Okay. Typical day starts, I get to town, drive in from coal camp every day yet. Still live down there.
That's good thinking time.
Yes, it is. It actually is. And decompression time on the way home. But when I get to town, the first thing I do is I drive through the shopping center. I drive around and look at the buildings we own and see if there's any major issues. You can see if there's somebody left their car abandoned, for example, in a lot, or somebody ran into something someplace, or the wind damaged something on the way in. We own the VA clinic, we own the Social Security building. They need attention immediately. So that is one thing I do. I drive around, take a swing through, and then get into the office.
I can kind of envision EW in the passenger seat.
Probably doing that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and it gives you a good look at what is there and what might need attention that day, and then I hit the ground running with, roof leaks. They come to my office. I get the phone calls and that happens quite often. I mean, some of the buildings are old, but we take care of them as much as we can, and we try to address them immediately. Parking lot issues. People are complaining about the parking lot or the drive-through over there behind Aspen Dental.
Oh my gosh!
And ours does get to that sometimes, but not quite that bad. And you try to address it immediately. But those maintenance issues, hit you first. And
by the way, that is not your responsibility behind Aspen.
No, absolutely not.
I want to make sure everybody knew that.
I wish I could take care of that.
Calls on that one.
I wish I could take care of that because there is an answer. You can fix those holes. Yeah. We've already met with an asphalt person to come do our repairs for the summer. Every summer, if you look, you can see different areas have been hit. So,
right.
So the maintenance issues, meeting with merchants, our current tenants, I try and do that, quite often, check in on them. But the financial side of it too is what I do. A lot of the financials and paying the bills, making sure the bills are paid and all of that. So
how do you get those new businesses in here?
Yeah.
Who approaches?
That's the fun part.
Who approaches who?
They approach me. I mean, it's hard. I can't call up Hobby Lobby. Let's talk about Hobby Lobby because that is one that we got into town. But I can't call them up and say, "Hey, Hobby Lobby, everybody in Sedalia wants you." That doesn't work.
No,
that doesn't work. Everybody in Sedalia wanted, Chipotle. But that doesn't work for me to call them up. I don't know who to call. Who am I going to call? Usually, no, they reach out to me, and there are different ways. Then from once they reach out to me, what I do is I provide them as much information on Sedalia as I can. I hype up and talk about the good things. The new school, which is 16 years old now, but golly.
That's right. It's still new.
Yeah, it's still new. The fact that we have a city-owned hospital that is supported locally. That's important.
And that is rare.
And it is rare, but it's important. It's
Sure.
very important when you're talking to people. The new community center.
Absolutely.
That was a big plus. All of those are pluses. You talk up the pluses as much as you possibly can. You talk about the fact that Sedalia is an industrial hub, in that we have so much industry and local employers. That's very important, because that right there tells you how many people there are. And you talk about the fact that we are a magnet community, in that we draw more people to the city of Sedalia, to the whole county, than the other counties around us. All of the other counties around us bleed. We draw. We bring more people in than the population is. And
That's
the
exactly
reason,
what I was going to ask next, because that's what I would anticipate.
yeah, and the reason is, I would say, is because of the number of industry that we have, the amount of industry that we have. And so that is very important for our retail, that we're drawing all those people in. Now, another thing that draws people through is the lake traffic. Big plus for local retail. But so you talk about all of those things when you talk to someone about coming to Sedalia. Panera and Freddy's. Let me talk about those. Okay. We did kind of bring those to town, because it ended up that one of our board members was at a get together in Kansas City talking to people, and someone came up to him and said, "Hi, I'm the owner of the Panera franchise. Tell me about Sedalia." And our board member started talking to him, and he said, "Well, tell me more." And that one did kind of come up just as a conversation of someone happened to be in the right place at the right time. And the two came together because they knew each other.
Right.
And we were able to put it together right at the same time. And they have been super happy with their location in Sedalia. They actually were very surprised. Their grand opening, and this has been several years ago now too, come to think of it, but their grand opening, they said their opening sales were better than any of their stores in Kansas City area.
Now that's saying something.
But it's also saying, what it's saying is, there was the need.
Absolutely.
The need for a different type. Panera is a very different type of
right.
Restaurant for Sedalia. Now, right. Freddy's a burger, yeah, but it's a little bit different too. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, but yeah, it's always good to have stories like that to share with others then. So, when you bring someone to town then, and you get that kind of reaction, you ask them, hey, send me an email. Tell me what you think of Sedalia. And you can use that then when you talk to others. But it's not always, like that one happened to be a conversation because someone happened to be somewhere. A lot of times, like, for example, Big Lots just recently went bankrupt. I immediately reached out to realtors, the realtor that we worked with to bring TJ Maxx to town. It was an out-of-town realtor, and he works with big retailers in the city. So the first thing I did is say, hey, I've got 28,000 square feet sitting here that has the Big Lots name on it. Who might be looking for land for space in Sedalia, Missouri? And he starts working. And that is a good way to make contact and get names. Who's looking for Sedalia?
Sure.
Because I can't reach out to those names. I don't know who's actually looking at Sedalia, because usually when a retailer is looking at Sedalia, it takes them months and months and months and maybe years to decide to come to Sedalia. It's not a snap decision. Right. But with Big Lots, they've gone through bankruptcy, and out of that bankruptcy, Ollie's has assumed their lease. So our Ollie's Bargain Outlet will be opening soon. They just started work in the store, and they'll be opening soon. And they're kind of like a Big Lots.
Yeah.
They're kind of like a Big Lots. So it'll be, I think it'll be good for the shopping center. Bring foot traffic.
And like I told you earlier, I've always noticed over the years, somebody goes, but somebody
comes right back in. And that's very important, very important to us. So, yeah.
You don't get bored very often, do you?
No, it's kind of fun.
You need to be a high energy person to do this.
Yes, yeah, and it's fun every day. There's something different every day, and that's why I like my job. I enjoy talking to people. and I enjoy learning from them, and that's kind of been what my position, has grown from the law office to the radio station to property management to a board member, but I love to learn, and I listen and learn as much as I can as I go, and maybe that's why it's worked for me. I continue to try and do that,
And I'll bet you when you're out and about somewhere or something, your ears are always up and open.
That's right. Yeah. Always listening, listening for opportunity. Maybe that's how EW did it all those years ago too. So,
as we start the process of wrapping up here, and this is kind of one of my philosophical questions, but I'll bet you got an answer for me. What, in general, how would you say Sedalia has changed over the last few years? For the good?
Oh, yes.
For the bad?
No, I think it's for the good.
I agree with you.
I think seeing the Heckert Center come to fruition. I mean, of course, Sue Heckert donated so much to be able to make that happen, but I think that was important because it gave the community something.
Oh, tremendous.
It gave them a place to go. Yes.
Just like Smith Cotton High School. Yes. I swear on the day that thing opened, the pride of this community just
jumped
swelled.
Up. Yeah. Yes.
And the same thing goes for Heckert.
It's important. It's important for the community. Yes.
And it took, again, I moved here in 83, and I can remember well that, they were talking about the need for a community center.
Yes.
Back then.
Yes.
So
yes,
it doesn't always happen every other day, but by golly, when it does.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the new Boys and Girls Club Teen Center is going to be important for the community too.
Absolutely.
It gives the teens another place to go. It gives them another place to learn. And that's important. It's very important for the future of our kids.
Sure.
Which is important then for the future of Sedalia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, what does Dianne Simon see as future needs in this community? And what are your goals for the community?
Well, future needs. That's pretty big. My goals can continue to be to keep our properties full and looking good and developed and maintained and providing retail or businesses for Sedalia. That's important. Keep the nursing homes going and providing that care and providing that place for people who can't afford it, and people who can afford it, but a place for them to be in their last days. That's important. Providing those jobs that Sedalia people need. That's important.
I'll throw one else at you, so I get to answer my own question. The importance of keeping our hospital financially strong and continuing to recruit physicians.
Yes.
Which, by the way, that will be for another Let's Talk session. But there are a lot of things happening in that regard that the community needs to know about.
Yes. I tell you, that residency program started by Dr. Fredrickson really was very important for our community. Important for our nursing homes. It's bringing in new doctors to be able to treat our residents. And
we've got a program on them next month.
Good.
So,
and the importance of the hospital is important for, our people, but it's also one thing that's important for the hospitals is to be able to have something for those doctors to come to Sedalia for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So to wrap it up, is there anything else that you'd like the community to hear?
Well, I think the legacy of EW and Sylvia Thompson is probably not known by everyone. I think that today was a good opportunity to be able to put that out there to show how much they have given to the city of Sedalia, and how important we think that is to continue.
Oh yeah.
We plan to do it. We plan to be here for a while and continuing their name and continuing to provide what they started. So
tremendous.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh my goodness, thank you. You're a world of knowledge when it comes to this stuff. And again, your excitement about the whole process, that is contagious.
Yeah, well,
You know?
yeah, and I could keep talking more about the retailers, side of it, because there is a lot into it. But it just is a part of what I do, and I do enjoy it. I mean, bringing and working and trying to figure out, how am I gonna what's gonna make them make the decision?
Yeah.
What else can I say? How it does take time.
Absolutely.
Takes time, but it's fun.
Absolutely. Well, to our listeners, thanks for listening in again. To our guest, Dianne Simon, thank you. Very, very informative session.
Thank you.
And again, listeners, we look forward to the next time that Sedalia talks.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.